everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another update. So right now the big news to share really is that President Joe Biden has officially actually come out to not only speak about what he personally thinks about the unemployment, or just simply put, the unemployment slash job situation in our countries right now, but he has also released an article directly from the White House's website in order to basically just express what he personally believes is going on with everything in that unemployment, job market, career world. While that's also true, another big thing is that AOC has now officially come out again, so as in one more time, to express or support or further push for even more unemployment to come. So in today's update I really just want to kind of just quickly reveal or just talk about this new information that we have about what Biden has officially said, especially since he is certainly one of the most powerful people in this entire country, and then maybe a little bit about what AOC has officially responded, because she has basically responded to a lot of the GOP Republicans that were originally against unemployment. So maybe that's also some bright news, because we at least have someone, and specifically technically a group of people, because also a lot of her friends are in similar shoes. But the idea is that there is someone that is voicing in support of our side. So we're going to talk right away all about it, but as always, maybe real fast, before we begin, consider smashing the like button, consider subscribing, hitting the bell for similar videos like this, and also other finance topics, which we will probably transition in relatively soon. Just a huge heads up to that. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, especially maybe just any predictions by the end of this video. So with that being said, let's get this video started right on the spot. Doing renovations in the back right now, so that's the reason why there's a curtain that's covering there. It's because it's to protect the dust. So hopefully it's kind of a little bit understandable what's going on. But the big news to share when it comes to just unemployment and stimulus in general is that President Biden, as just mentioned, has officially come out to speak about his own personal opinions. So after having so many individual politicians just basically talk about it, even if it's subtly, we now officially have the president to come out. And not only that, but he's also officially released a statement directly from the White House's website right here, so you know that this is essentially as official as it possibly can be, since it's directly from his website. The idea is that he has not really spoken as much about the jobs report, but he has commented a lot about the recent unemployment situation, or certainly the unemployment numbers that recently came out. As most of you guys know from one of the past updates, which I'll probably put at the very end screen, where we talked a little bit about the job numbers and also about the unemployment numbers and what that specifically means for unemployment, is that this recent week we officially had the very first week where the unemployment claims reach below 300,000 people. So we are starting, there's still a lot of people, 300,000 is just a lot of people, especially since we also only gained 200,000 jobs, so there's obviously a lot more people that are becoming unemployed than the jobs that are actually being created. But the big idea is that what Biden has officially spoken is that he still sees these numbers as improving. He has expressed about how the unemployment rate has officially fell below 5%, even though, again, when you're in a country with over 100 million people, 5% is a lot of people. I think that's the really big thing. And so the overall idea is that he essentially just sees it as a very promising thing. So he has a very bright and positive outlook. Now you guys can feel free to share, because obviously bright and positive, this is probably the more subjective side to basically how things are going. But he has also expressed that several things that he really does want to do and he believes would be the final finishing touch to really be able to bring this country back is going to be to try to officially finally approve the stimulus package, but specifically both stimulus packages. Because keep in mind, there's a couple out there. You have the bipartisan package, the physical infrastructure, and then you have the social and human infrastructure part of the package, which basically has programs that actually relate to us. So that's probably the part that we really, really care about. And the big news and the great news is that he has advocated that he feels that by approving these packages, that will officially be the finishing touch to really be able to finally bring this country back, or at least as close as we possibly can get, because obviously a lot of things have sadly changed. Feel free to share if you guys have any particular stories, but the idea is that he believes that this is really what we need to finally have those finishing touches to really come back again. He has also stated that supposedly about every single month, ever since he entered into the White House, about 600,000 jobs have been created per month, average-wise. Of course, we do know that there is a decline because, as just mentioned, under 200,000 jobs were created in September 2021. Now, this is the part that isn't really expressed inside of his report, but I think it's also important to really, really note that all of the numbers that he has right now, or certainly most of the numbers that he has right now in his report that he's using with, are basically numbers, especially all of the averages, that are reflected from when he physically entered into the White House in January and then this recent month. So essentially it's about a 9-month period, and it's important to also notice is that within those 9 months, technically, 8 of those months, the unemployment was actually happening. So that probably will skew some of the numbers, and we will talk a little bit about that in a little bit with what AOC has to say, so definitely stay tuned for that. But the big idea is that it's really important to notice is that the good, or we'll just put it as general news is that while he does see the economy, he does see the country as starting to slowly roll back to normal, and he has a very bright and positive outlook, I think it is also important to notice is that the numbers and the data that he's using have been numbers from when the unemployment was actually still around. And we do know is that because now that it has sadly ended, and because a lot of research outside of this has also already stated about how ever since ending the unemployment, it has been proven by a lot of numbers that it actually did not end up really creating a massive change or recovery to the job market and all of the unemployment situation. So that is just something really, really important to note when it comes to where he actually is coming up with the statement, or where or what most of these statements are physically based on. So where does this actually go further is that the other big thing to note, and I guess this is the extension of it, is that AOC has also officially just come out once again several days ago to express her opinion. Now the biggest difference right now is that because there are a lot of GOP Republicans, and again leaving politics, it's just because this is physically what's happening, that are still very, very much expressing and supporting about why they really wanted or had to have the unemployment end. And the huge reason behind all of this stuff is because they really, really did feel like a lot of this was incentivizing people to stay at home. It's probably the typical reasons that you have already heard about how they wanted to force people to go back to work, and even though research and numbers have already proven that. So the good news to what's happening is that AOC did now officially come out, not only to speak to us, but also to actually directly speak to a lot of the GOP Republicans trying to press or basically challenge a lot of the words that they physically said, and basically talking about how a lot of the stuff isn't true. A lot of the statements about how, like, it seemed like everything was just very politically run. She did also use examples. For example, she talked a little bit about the restaurant industry also inside of her statement. The idea really is that she's saying that a lot of the reasons for the unemployment situation being high, and the reasons why all of this stuff, and why a lot of the GOP Republican statement is technically not even true, especially because she made the statement that essentially she believes that when the GOP Republicans stated about why this is causing a lot of people to leave their jobs, so AOC's specific argument was about how when people leave their jobs, technically in a lot of ways, they also don't even qualify for unemployment, because in order to get on to unemployment, especially in the very, very beginning, you had to have been someone that sadly had to lose work for uncontrollable circumstances. I work in the film and events industry, so when events got canceled, you can imagine what happened to my industry and pretty much every other coworker that I had. So the big idea really is that she's saying that it kind of doesn't fully line up, because if people are leaving their jobs in order to get onto unemployment, the big thing to note is that a lot of these people may not even necessarily qualify for unemployment. So this is really just words that are being spoken right now. Now, one thing that she has also said is that, for example, she mentioned the restaurant industry, that one of the things that she feels really has to be improved is really about trying to increase wages, because she has mentioned that one of the reasons why a lot of people may be hesitant to return back to work is because of the typical reasons that we have mentioned, such as like safety, hazard, about how a lot of the wages are a little bit too low relative to what that physical job involves. And it makes a lot of sense, because I think she did mention the restaurant industry, and I think the reason why she brought that up, aside from the fact that because the restaurant industry was one of the industries that was the most impacted by the pandemic, but it's also because a lot of them also have one of the highest safety risks, and they represent one of the highest percentages of people in the particular industry that were impacted. And it makes sense in a lot of ways, because when you work in the restaurant industry, you are working with food. It is relatively a physical job, because you're constantly walking back and forth and delivering stuff. And it's also the few jobs where you're dealing with people that do not have a mask on, which makes sense, because it's difficult to eat food with a mask unless you punch a hole or something. But even then, it's just difficult. So because of that reason, she has stated about how there really is a safety incentive to why what's happening right now is happening right now. So what is the overall idea behind all of this stuff really, is that the huge idea to what's happening right now is that we've at least finally officially heard word from Biden about what he physically thinks about just unemployment, jobs markets, and everything that's going on there. The general news is that because he does see it as something that is improving, it does mean that he's not necessarily someone that, it's not to say he doesn't care, but what it is to say is that the unemployment, just general unemployment programs, isn't his biggest priority right now. Now, granted, all of this stuff, as mentioned, can change, and it has changed before in the past. There are many times that we will have a politician that will say a certain something and then change their minds and then say the total opposite, sometimes even just within 24 hours later. Think about most of the updates that we shared last year about the second stimulus package, if you guys remember that. But the overall idea also is that, on the other hand, at least we do have AOC that is now preaching for support. So aside from the fact that she does have her own bill, which we talked about, I'll put a video at the end screen. Most people already saw it, but it's the one that talks about how she wants to do an unemployment program that goes on until 2022. But the big idea is that she's at least not only supporting it, but she's also now trying to fight and also counter argue a lot of the statements that the GOP Republicans had to why it had to physically end. So hopefully maybe she's able to gain even more support, but the idea is at least we finally have some level of voice, and I think that is at least a very, very bright positive news. But with that being said, that's what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So if you guys at least found that insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button. If you guys haven't done so, consider subscribing and hitting the bell, and maybe feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or predictions about what you currently think about the situation. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend if you're watching on release date, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.